Hello, my fellow chatterers and book lovers, and anyone else who's popped in because you're curious or you've got a bit lost. Welcome, everyone. I am Chatty, and welcome to my channel, Chatty the Mad Chatter, where I am going to be chatting away madly about some book stats. So I'm going to be talking about all the books that I read in March and going through sizes, genres, and all of that malarkey. So if you enjoy some stats, you're in the right place. If you don't, you might want to consider a different type of video because stats is all I'm talking about today. So grab yourself a nice brew. I am drinking some tea, which is at a great temperature today, which is nice because often it's cold. And if you've not been on my channel before, I do not edit my videos. I do it in one long continuous shot. So here's my little gimmick. One shot, no editing. Clink, clink, clink. So get ready to embrace some chaos because there is inevitably some. My camera has just literally fallen over, so it could happen again. Who knows? So in March, I had played my TBR game. It was the first time I played it with the new board. So that is Book Ladders and Bookworms. If you do not know what that is and you wanted to check out what I played in March, I will leave the video here. So if you want to have a look at that, you can do. And this is what I got. So I'm just going to go through them. I've got my handy notebook because I can't remember everything. So this is very useful, like an extension of my brain. So this is a placeholder. This was for Nura and the Immortal Palace, but I had to take it back to the library. So we've got a placeholder. But this is Nura, and that was Lucky 13, where I had 13 middle grade books, picked a random number and counted until I hit book number 13. So that's how I got that one. Then we have Hollowpox, which was from a 30-second prompt. I had to find a book in 30 seconds, which was by an author I love, and I love the other two Hollowpox books, so I really like Jessica Townsend's writing. Jessica Townsend, so I was pretty convinced that I would also enjoy this. We then had Spice Road, which was a lucky ladder, and this was for a recently acquired book, and I got that in my January, which actually came in February, Fairy Tale book box. We then have Orion Lost, which is another 30-second prompt, and that was for an older book that you'd acquired. So a book I've had for a really long time, which kind of threw me for a bit because I couldn't remember which books I'd had for a long time and which I hadn't. But I have had Orion Lost for a really long time. Then I got Reading Project. So different things that I wanted to do throughout the year, one of which is to read more of my book boxes. So the other book subscription service I have is Shelter, Shelter Book Club. Where they send you a book every 6 weeks, and also the money continues towards the charity Shelter. So I chose My Pen is the Wing of a Bird. That was their February-ish book. And then finally, Asha and the Spirit Bird was 30-second prompt for a cozy book. So let's have a little look and see if I get a reward or a punishment. So Nura and the Immortal Palace, I did read that one. Hollowpox, I did read that one. Spice Road, I didn't manage to read it that month. There were a lot of middle grade books I was wanting to read. I'm buddy reading this one with Chloe and from Phantom of Pages and Vidania from Vidania Silverscribe. And Vidania in particular had a lot of other things going on, so we all kind of collectively pushed it to April. Orion Lost, I also didn't read because I was trying to prioritise some other library books and some books that I had that I needed to kind of read for other buddy reads and things, and this one just didn't happen, sadly. My Pen is the Wing of a Bird, I did read, and Asha and the Spirit Bird, I didn't read that one either. So only 3 of the 6 books did I read, so really did not read my TBR at all this month. So it is going to be a punishment for me. But what I'm going to do for this time is I'm not going to be picking from my bag of suggestions. I will do that again later. But for May, I'm not doing a TBR game. I want to take part in the Asian Readathon. I did a lot of Readathon in March, a lot of Readathon content in April, and I think I just need to just focus and not be setting myself so many things to read and just let myself focus in on the Asian Readathon and just kind of read around that and chill out a bit more. So this means this will roll over to the June TBR game. And what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be having sort of a much trickier prompt section. So if any of you saw my book game live where I chose my seasonal shelf books, again, I will leave the link here, I mentioned a new card I have, which is called We're All Mad Here, where I've set myself more challenging games of reading books that I don't want to read versus books I do want to read. So that is going to be one of the prompts for my game. I'm going to be inputting it into my June TBR game to make it a little bit more difficult and to be testing myself a bit more. So that is my punishment, having one of my regular kind of prompts as a much more challenging one, kind of more so than the Worrying Worms. So that's what I'm going to do. But I'm really excited about it because I think it's going to be fun, and I've been waiting to use those cards for a while. So sort of punishment, but sort of an enjoyable punishment to me. It makes sense, I think. Anyway, I'm going to now swap these around and just put up all the books I have read and get on with the stats. Okay, here are all the books I read in March. It does look quite impressive. I think there are 11. Yes, there are 11 books, so it's much higher than I usually read, but we have a lot of middle grade in there, and also 2 of the adult books I had actually started reading in February, so it's not completely exactly kind of 11, which is why I like to go through stats to kind of give you a bit more general idea, and also more of a general idea of what I'm doing. So 5 of these books were adult books. So that is, everything's just collapsing on me now. That is Robin Hobb, Dragon Haven, which is adult fantasy, and it is the second book in the, it's coming to me, Rainwild Chronicles, which is the 4th series in the realm of the Eldlings. Trans, a memoir by Juliet Jakes, which is a memoir. Spinning Silver by Naomi Novik, which is a fantasy. This is placeholder for A Dictionary of Lost Words by Pip Williams, which is a historical fiction. And My Pen is the Wing of a Bird, which is new fiction by Afghan women. So it's a collection of short stories by women from Afghanistan. So those are the 5 adult books. I'm going to pause while I sort my bookshelf out. And I have 0 YA this month and 6 middle grade. So I have Ash van Otterloo's Cattywampus, which is a fantasy, sort of paranormal fantasy. We have My Story, Ignatious Sancho by Judy Hepburn, which is sort of like a fictionalized telling of the life of Ignatious Sancho. So could be sort of autobiographical non-fiction, but I would put it more as historical fiction because I feel it's more of like a fictional account of this historical figure. We then have a Rover story by, I think it's Jasmine Varga? Yeah, Jasmine Varga, which is a sci-fi. The placeholder, Nura and the Immortal Palace, and I have totally blanked on who wrote that, but it will be in the description. And that is a portal fantasy. We then have Hollowpox by Jessica Townsend, and we have another placeholder. This is Everdark by Abby Elphinstone. And Hollowpox and Everdark are also fantasy. Okay. And one of my goals for this year was I wanted every month like a third of what I was reading to be middle grade. I wanted to be reading a lot more middle grade. And this is over half, so it's over 50% of what I was reading, which makes sense because it's middle grade March. So if I'm going to read a lot of middle grade, it's going to be during a middle grade readathon, really. In terms of my series, I'm up to date with 1 series. That is the Nevermoore series by Jessica Townsend. So this is Hollowpox, the 3rd book in the series, and we are eagerly awaiting Silverborn, which should be due to be released in October. So I'm now up to date with this, so that is awesome. And I've made progress with 2. One is the Realm of the Eldlings. I'm now on this, I've read the 2nd book in the Rainwild Chronicles, and the other one is Everdark, which for me reading is the 2nd book in the Unmapped Chronicles. Ooh, 2 Chronicles. But it's a prequel. So the first one is Rumblestar, then we have Jungle Drop, then we have Crackle Dawn Dragon. In between Jungle Drop and Crackle Dawn, Abby Elphinstone released Everdark, which is the prequel book. So in terms of me reading, this is the 2nd book of the series I've read, but in terms of chronological, it's like book 0 or book 0.5, however you want to order them. and I started 0 series, which is great. But I also finished 0 series as well. So, you know, it wasn't too bad. Okay, I'm now going to talk about sizes. So I like to liken my books to animals to talk about their different sizes. So I have One Elephant, which is a book that is over 500 pages but under 700, and that is Robin Hobb's Dragon Haven. I then have 3 cow-sized book, which is a book which is between 401 and 500 pages. So that is Hollowpox, Spinning Silver, and A Dictionary of Lost Words. Now I've written down here that I have 2 goats, but I can't work out what the other goat is. One goat is Memoire, and I have no idea which one the other one is because there's 2 books that I can't check because I don't actually have them here. But I don't know if they were actually goats or not. So for now, I'm going to say I've read 1 goat, which was Memoire, and the other 5. Are the other 4? I have 4. I've given myself an extra book here, which is silly. There's just 1 goat. There we go. Glad we got that sorted. Just the 1 goat. Oh no, there are 5. There are 5. No. Okay, 5 mice, not 4 mice. So that is these. Oh. These are mice, but 1 might be a goat. So that's My Pen is a Wing of a Bird, Everdark, A Rover Story, Cattywampus, and Nura and the Immortal Palace. And then we have 1 ant-sized book. So mice are between 151 pages to, thank you books, 300 pages. And an ant is below 150 pages, and that is my story, Ignatious Sancho. Okay, book format. I read 9 physical books, and I read 2 audiobooks. Oh, they're both placeholders. So that was the Dictionary of Lost Words and Everdark. Both of those I listened to the audio, which I got from my library on BorrowBox, which is really helpful. And I did really enjoy listening to both the audios of those. I really enjoyed the narrators. And that is another reason why I've been able to read more this month, because 2 of the books were audio, so I got to read wherever I was, not just a place I could sit and look at a physical book. And also in terms of where the books came from, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 books which were my own books, and then 6 books which are from the library. So it's a very library heavy month this month, which funnily enough means of those 5 books, only 1 counts for the Read What You Own challenge. So I'm doing great with that one, aren't I? Woohoo! And all of these books were new reads. I didn't have any rereads this month, so all of those were new to me. I'm now going to go through the genres. Unsurprisingly, I read mainly from my favourite genre this month, which is fantasy. So I have 6 fantasy books, which are Cattywampus, Dragon Haven, Hollowpox, Nura and the Immortal Palace, Spinning Silver, and Everdark. I then have 1 sci-fi, which is a Rover story. I have 1 memoir, a non-fiction, which is Memoire. I have 1, I put it as contemporary. So the short story collection, My Pen is the Wing of a Bird. There could be a few in there which are more historical fiction, but generally I found the collection felt contemporary for me, like it would have been like the last 10 years or so, I think. And then 2 historical fiction, which is the Dictionary of Lost Words and my story, Ignatious Sancho. In terms of reading Global Majority books, I have 4 books which are authors of Global Majority. That is My Story, Ignatious Sancho by Judy Hepburn. Oh, not that one. Okay, well, this is now the placeholder for Nura and the Immortal Palace by the author who I keep blanking on the name. I'm so sorry. My Pen is the Wing of a Bird by a variety of Afghanistan women, and A Rover Story by Jasmine Varga. And then I have 7, because I can do maths, 7 books by the Western Eurocentric authors. So as one of my goals is to have like half and half. I'm not doing as well as I have previously done. So I did think I worked it out. No, but anyway, I'm under 50% for that, definitely. So not as good. So, but more than a quarter, but less than 50%. So it's not terrible, but it's not quite where I want it to be. So out of the books I was reading, in terms of diverse protagonists, 9 of the 11 books had a diverse protagonist. These 4 all had LGBTQ plus protagonists in them. The short story collection, it's a little bit more difficult because there are some stories that do, obviously, and some that don't, but because one story was told from the point of view of someone who was trans, I would count this definitely as doing that, even though that was 1 out of several. In terms of disability, there are 3? Yes, 3. There were 3 books that had a character with disability as the main characters. So again, the My Pen is the Wing of a Bird. Some did, some didn't, but some were the ones that did. They were a main protagonist in there, so I'm counting that one. And then I read, there was 1 book with Black representation and 3 books with Asian representation. So the book that I managed to read What You Own, the grand total of 1, was Hollowpox. Unfortunately, Cattywampus, My Pen is the Wing of a Bird, Dragonhaven, and a Rover story all came into my possession after I made that video saying from now, so they don't count as part of my reading what I own, because I acquired them afterwards through either book subscription boxes or earning them and being healthy for books. But never mind, we will continue to try. April's a whole new month. We'll see how we do then. Now we're going to move on to which book I found was my least favourite. And again, it's not that it was a bad book, I just didn't enjoy it as much as the others, and that is My Story by Ignatious Sancho. And I think it is one of those books where, as much as I love reading middle grade, it is non-fiction. Well, no, it's a fictitious account of a real historical figure. So I think because of that, there were certain things that had to happen in a certain way, and I did enjoy reading about Ignatious Sancho, and I definitely want to read other books about Ignatious Sancho, but I think it was just a bit too simplistic and young for me. I think I wanted a bit more detail in certain things to have that enjoyment of it, but it's understandable because it is aimed at a different audience. So that was my least favourite, but it's still a really good book, and I think children would definitely enjoy reading this. So my favourite, I think it's just not going to come as a surprise. I'm sticking to I know what I like. My favourite things to read about, as much as I like to dabble in other things and kind of have a break, I will always be coming back to fantasy. And again, it's 2. I can't pick between them. It's Hollowpox and Dragonhaven. So these are 2 of my favourite book series. I absolutely adore The Realm of the Elderlings, and I really, really love Nevermoore. So I get different things from both of them, but I love them equally. And I can't pick between. And it doesn't mean that any of these books were unenjoyable or were lesser. It just means I know my reading taste, and my reading taste, fantasy will always have my heart. So it's just naturally going to go to the fantasy ones. And the emotional payoff in Dragonhaven was fabulous. The character arcs, I just really loved where their stories went. I definitely see Dragonhaven as kind of very much part 2 of a full book between Dragon Keeper and Dragonhaven. I very much think they should be one book in part 1 and part 2, but there we go. And Hollowpox, it did live up to everything I was hoping for. I had an amazing time reading it. I buddy read this with my mum Nata, and we both really, really enjoyed it, and it was so much fun chatting to her about this book. But I am sorry, Nata, I will be reading Silverborn without you, because I know you're waiting for the paperback, and I can't do that. I can't wait for the paperback. I need to just read Silverborn. And I probably will be rereading all of the Nevermoore books in September, ready for Silverborn in October, because I'm very excited. So there we go. That is all the stats for everything I read in March. Please do get chatty in the comments. You know I love a chat. Let me know if you've read any of these books, your thoughts on them, what you were reading in March, although it probably feels like a long time ago by the time this will eventually get posted. But hey ho. If you did enjoy this, do give it a little like. And if you want to see more, then have a think about subscribing. And in the meantime, happy reading, everyone.